Welcome to Psychic Bent. My name is Carrie.
And I'm Kim. We are two sisters wanting to help other psychics learn and grow in their abilities and to help educate about spirits, angels, and everything psychic.
Welcome back, listeners, to Psychic Bent. And I really hope you enjoyed the episode that we had previously interviewing my niece, Kim's daughter, Kat. It was a lot of fun doing the interview, wasn't it, Kim?
Oh, it was hilarious. I had a really good time.
A funny story.
A lot of interesting information.
Yes. Now, remember, we're in Mercury in retrograde, along with, there's like 5 total planets in retrograde. And so we've had a lot of hiccups in the last 2 weeks doing podcasts. And we have one we have to redo because it totally messed up, didn't it, Kim?
Oh, it was awful. It was absolutely awful.
The actual interview was great, but
there was no saving it.
But the equipment did not capture the person we were interviewing. But while we were doing the interview with my niece, Kat, how we do the interview is we're all on our cell phones. And we're talking into an app. And I don't want to get very technical, but it's several steps. One thing's recording, one thing's we're communicating through. And, how phones are with vehicles these days. Well, evidently, my brother-in-law decided to move the car that Katrina's phone was attached to. And so I was hijacked from the podcast, found myself talking to my brother-in-law. Once he started the car, the Bluetooth kicked in and snatched me off her phone. And I ended up having a quick conversation with my brother-in-law while no one noticed I was gone from the podcast. So Kim and Katrina were quite entertained, and I can't wait to hear what they had to say because I wasn't present. But as soon as I got back and said, "I'm back, what I missed?" They're like, "You were gone." So I just thought that was funny. You might notice in the episode, you may want to go back and listen to it and say, "I wonder what point Carrie got hijacked by her brother-in-law." But I thought that was pretty funny. It was pretty funny, wasn't it, Kim?
Yeah, it was hilarious, but let's hope you don't notice whenever that happens.
Yeah, I was quite surprised when all of a sudden I had my brother-in-law. Like, okay, Mercury, thank you for that retrograde move. So we've had a lot of fun things going on with our recordings, but that was the first time that has ever happened. Hopefully the last time that happens. It was very awkward. But okay. So this episode, we're all about miracles, and we're very excited about this one. It's really funny. When we decided to do a podcast, there were all the spirit gave me bam, 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 bam. This episode, this, and then angels. Yes, all this stuff, and then angels. And he keeps giving me more stuff before angels. And I'm like going, okay, Kim, we have to do this one now. So miracles happen to be next on our list. That was added 2 weeks ago, I think. Wasn't it 2 weeks ago?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, Spirit decided we need to talk about miracles. And as Spirit does, we get into something and we have our aha moments that we did need to talk about miracles. And, Kim and I both have very personal experiences ourselves with miracles that had happened in our lifetime. And I believe everybody has had miracles happen, but sometimes they don't see them for what they are. Like in my situation, it was one of those where you could easily, that's just whatever. Where in Kim's situation, it was definitely a definite miracle. And I'm going to let Kim get into that when she's ready. But we're going to go over what miracles are. And it doesn't matter what your belief system is. Spirit, the divine, God, whatever your belief system is, these miracles are happening. You can call angels, there's that divine presence that is there, the universe, whatever. These miracles can happen. Yeah, I think we're going to go a little bit into how to ask for a miracle, but we're going to get into some stories. Some of them are very but Kim and I both with goosebumps when we were talking offline about these stories. So I hope you enjoy this episode. I think we've been looking forward to doing this one all week. So Kim, I'm going to throw it to you. Why don't you start us off?
Okay, thank you. Now, miracles are very extraordinary, uplifting experiences. They can be that. They usually are that. They break the boundaries of what we normally consider possible. They appear to you to be spontaneous events that happen that make you sit back and go, Wow. Did that just happen? But that's just the scratching of the surface of what a miracle really is. Miracles, they can extend to so many different things. They could be recognizing the beauty and wonder of nature, of the mountains, just anything unexpected and unexplained. It could be the miracle of sitting outside, you're having a horrible, dreary day, and just a little rabbit comes up to you and just looks at you and wanders off. That could feel
I
like a
want to pet
miracle.
it. I want to pet
Yeah.
it. Pick it up.
So it could be something just as simple as that to help
Yeah.
bring you hope and joy from despair. Those are also miracles.
But don't you think that people just kind of think miracles don't happen today? That, oh, that was biblical. That's so Old Testament, or and leading into the New Testament. Don't you feel that people maybe don't recognize or aren't looking for them, that they're happening? I mean, they're happening, but they're not like tuning into it.
They are not accepting them for what they are. They are too busy explaining away what has happened instead of seeing, grasping, and understanding the miracle as it is taking place.
And that kind of,
It's easy to
yeah,
just chalk it off as something else.
that kind of goes in place with like growing up psychic.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. Chalking it off as you didn't see it, it didn't happen, well, this can be explained, this could be debunked.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to believe me? Fear factor going into it. But
Right.
yeah, I mean,
Right.
recognizing it and accepting it. And it doesn't matter if anybody else, you don't even have to tell anybody else. I mean, your situation hasn't, your miracle story hasn't left the family. This would be the first time you share it openly with a public forum. And then same as mine. It's one of those where it happened and you know what happened, but you don't say it. You don't tell people because they're set. Oh, they're not going to believe it happened. They're not going to think it was a miracle. They're not going to believe me.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right.
Well, your situation was really interesting because it got documented.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to take that. Yeah, when you're ready for that one, we'll jump into that. But yeah,
Right.
but I think so many people have miracles, but they, like you said, they shirk it off because it's like, who's going to believe me?
Yeah. Exactly.
Maybe it really didn't happen the way I think it happened,
Right.
and not accepting that blessing.
And, we're always talking about calling upon the guardian angels to come down and help you and your spirit guides. And when they do, and it's something to protect you, even, those could be miracle situations that are taking place, miracle happenings. And you should accept them that way. And there are ways that you can manifest it and call upon help for a miracle. That's part of prayer, whether you're praying to your meditating to the spirits or your guides or the divine, whatever you want to call it, whatever your belief is,
Whatever
your
your deity
deity
is.
is,
Yeah.
that you can actually call upon them for signs and for guidance and comfort, direction in your life. If you've got a big crossroad in front of you and you don't know in your life and you don't know which direction to take, you can call upon and ask for a miracle to get you to where you need to be.
I know Kim and I have a practice where, because you're like, if you need protection, you want Archangel Michael. If you're going to call on angels, if you're a light worker and you do angel work, that would be your thing. You would call Archangel Michael. What angel do you need for something else? And we both have gotten into the habit of, okay, what angel I need today, I don't. You know what's going to happen today, what angel I need today, take care of this, or watch over this, or do this. We've gotten into that habit because it's kind of like, well, I don't know what angel takes care of. I mean, my sister Julie the other day was, okay, parking space angel, we're going to need a parking space because she's handicapped and we need to be able to get as close a handicap spot as we can to a location so she can get in and out because she tires very quickly. And I'm like going, okay, way to go. She's calling, that's the angel she talks to the most,
Yeah.
I'm sure. Her parking spot
Yeah.
angel. And we had a spot right there. Boop, we were able to pull in. It was perfect. But I know I'm getting off on the angel tangent, which we're going to go into angels hopefully soon if Spirit lets us, and not keep adding more things. It's kind of like if you don't know what to call on, just ask the universe, you know what I need.
Right.
Send it to me. If you're uncomfortable, you don't know. If you don't follow angels, that's not your belief system, but you feel like you need some sort of protection, and it feels like a dire, like your spidey senses are saying, "Hey, something's really wrong here. You need protection." You can just ask whoever's available and does this kind of protection. Please come to me and
Right.
protect me. You don't have to have the big. You don't have to know the names. You don't have to know the players.
Right. Exactly. So that's, in a nutshell, what miracles are. Now, did you want to go over a few that we found on the in our research first before we go
Yeah,
into talking
yeah,
about our personal stories now, if you want? I thought we would give some of the other examples that we found before we dive in.
absolutely. Well, when I start off with the one that gave me, I think it gave you goosebumps as well, Kim. It was this is basically where mysterious voices led rescuers to a vehicle that was submerged in icy water. This happened in Utah, and it happened in March of 2015. And the driver was Lynn Jennifer Grossbeck, and she was 25, and she did lose control of her car and landed in an icy Spanish Fork River in Utah. Her vehicle was in the water for 14 hours before first responders found her 18-month-old daughter Lily in her car seat, hanging upside down above frigid river water.
Mm,
Oh my gosh.
wow.
First of all, you have an 18-month-old child hanging upside down for 14 hours
Mm-hmm. In freezing temperatures.
and freezing temperatures. That alone is phenomenal. I mean, just
Mm-hmm.
miraculous. Prior to finding Lily, though, both police officers and firefighters report that they heard an adult voice yell, "Help me," from inside the car.
Right.
They discovered that the voice could not have come from the young mother because she died on impact.
Mm-hmm.
So the rescuers still cannot explain the voice or how the little baby survived hanging upside down 14 hours in freezing temperatures, and she was not dressed for the cold.
No, she wasn't. She came out fine.
That was a miracle. And the voice, like, really, yeah, that was divine intervention.
Definitely.
Yeah, that was definitely a miracle. That baby should not have.
Mm-hmm.
If the mother died on impact, then that was such a trauma that happened to that vehicle,
Yes, exactly.
you know,
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So Kim, did you want to share one?
Yeah, sure. This one was a woman named Morgan Lake. She was stopped at a toll plaza on the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, and she watched in horror as a large tractor trailer sped toward her without giving any indication of stopping. It slammed into her car, sending her through the toll plaza and off the bridge and into the cold water below.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I know. As the car filled with water, Morgan found herself unable to escape until she felt a hand push her back against the seat to relax her and allow her to unfasten her seatbelt and escape from the car before it sunk. Isn't that
Wow.
amazing?
That is amazing. I mean, you obviously something pushed her back so she could do what she needed to do to get out.
Pushed her back and it calmed her
Yeah.
enough to know how to get out.
Yeah, because I mean, who's not freaking out in that kind of situation? You know,
Yeah.
who is not? You just got knocked off a bridge and you saw it coming.
Yes.
You hit the water on impact, had to be, I mean, that had to be bone jolting and caused a lot of damage right there.
Right.
And
Exactly.
then, yeah, and all of a sudden something pushes you back and you get calm. Yeah,
Right. This is crazy.
that is amazing. I have one, and this one was Ruby Casimiro. She was 40, and she fell unconscious from a rare amniotic fluid embolism during a cesarean section. This was in September 2014 at the Boca Raton Regional Hospital in Florida. The doctors for 3 hours tried to revive her, and after 45 minutes without a pulse, doctors decided to invite her family into the operating room to say their goodbyes. Then what doctors are calling a miracle occurred. Her heart began beating on its own. And she revealed that she saw herself floating along a tunnel. She saw spiritual beings, including her father. She was surrounded by light. And what's more incredible is she had no brain damage, and she made a full recovery. And both her and her baby girl were both healthy and happy.
Wow.
It's pretty amazing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely amazing. Chills every time.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Okay, so should we do one more?
Do you have one more you want to share?
Sure. This one was Vesna Volovic was just another flight attendant who had boarded a plane bound from Stockholm to Belgrade. Everything seemed normal to her until the plane suddenly exploded at 33,000 feet. It was a result of a terrorist attack. Everyone on the plane perished except for Vesna. And after it was all over, she held the world record for longest fall survived without a parachute. Although she had very serious injuries, she survived and is regarded as a national hero from the former Yugoslavia. Even more incredible is the fact that she wasn't even supposed to be on that plane. The airline had gotten her confused with another Vesna because the fact that it was the wrong person on that plane.
She survived.
She survived.
And I'm sorry, but I don't think I'd want to have that record. As
true.
I mean, yeah. I wonder if she remembered the fall. That would be,
I don't know.
Yeah. I wouldn't want that record.
No.
But that is amazing that, first of all, she was the only survivor of a bomb exploding in an airplane.
Right, at 33,000 feet.
I just can't even imagine. So that obviously it's divine intervention right there. Or there were angels at work or whatever to keep her safe, because she wasn't the one that was supposed to be on the plane.
Right. Exactly.
I wonder how the other one felt when they found out.
I don't know.
Wait a minute.
Probably relief, like, ooh.
Wait a minute. I was supposed to be on that plane. Yeah. Talk about two miracles happening.
Right. That's what I was going to say. That was actually another. She wasn't on that plane when she should have been,
Right. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we go into our personal stories? And I thought I would tell mine first because mine's not as amazing as yours.
Well, I actually have two. Okay.
Oh, you have two ones for yourself?
I do.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you want to tell them back to back, or what did you want to do?
Well, I think I'll tell one first, and then you can tell yours, and then we'll go on to the big one.
Okay.
This first one that I'm going to tell is a trip home from university when Katrina was in college. My husband and I went to Katrina's university at the end of the fall semester of her first year at college to help her load up everything for the winter break, because you're not supposed to leave food stuff there, and there's just things you shouldn't leave there over the winter. And cold weather and precipitation was moving in after we got down there, because it's like a 3.5-hour drive from our house to where the university is. And there were so many people there trying to do the same thing, getting their children out for the winter break. And I think there was also a game or something that went on, like a football game or something that had been taking place as well. So the town was pretty crowded. And we decided that we were going to just eat while we waited for the major school exodus to happen. So after we were done eating, it was probably about an hour hour and a half by the time we finished eating. As we were heading home, back home for the 3-hour drive, the roads were starting to get a little precipitation on them, and it was starting to get a little icy, a light layer of ice. And on the news reports, they were telling everybody, you need to start getting off the roads. You need to think about heading off the roads, stay somewhere, just pull over and wait till all this is gone, or if you can, or whatever. And we're like, it's not that bad here yet. We'll go ahead and make it home.
Typical Midwest driver.
Exactly.
In the mountains, we would have been already closed up. There was a closed sign on the highway.
Exactly.
We would have been done. Half inch, well, we're done.
Yeah. So my daughter was in her car behind us, and we were in a big excursion, I think it was, at that point in time. And a pickup truck towing a little rental trailer zoomed past us. In front of us, started slipping on the ice. You saw it, fishtail. The driver started losing control and literally rocketed off the road to the median. It came to a stop, thank goodness, by the cables that prevent vehicles from crossing over into the other lane. So the cables stopped that vehicle from doing a head-on collision on the other side of the interstate. They were fine, so we went ahead and kept on driving. And the closer we got to home, the weather reports were prompting people just to get off the roads until the next day, that they were really getting bad. As these roads were getting bad, people couldn't get up the exit ramps. And you have to keep in mind that this is in southern Missouri, so it's all hilly. It's the beginnings of mountains and such, so it's the foothills. All exit ramps were going up. So people couldn't get up these exit ramps. They would start to go up and just slide back down because the ice was getting so bad. We had traveled about 35 miles, and it took us an hour and a half just to get that far. And we made the decision to find somewhere to stop for the night. I went on my phone, and I found a hotel close by, and we started to follow the GPS directions to get there. It guided us to the only flat exit ramp to a road that had no oncoming traffic, and it was not as slick as the other roads, to the hotel. When we arrived at the hotel, my husband and daughter went inside to see if they had any rooms available, or if there was a way we could just stay there, sit on a couch, whatever, for the night. As they walked up to the counter, the person behind the counter had just hung up the phone with someone who had canceled the reservation for the night, and the only room available was a room with 2 queen beds. We were able to spend the night and remain safe off the roads until morning. And then as we were heading home, we realized how lucky we were, and that it was a miracle that we were guided to that only exit that was flat and to where we needed to be, because we saw so many different vehicles and accidents, the remnants of them, on the way home for that next 3 hours, and it was unbelievable, some of the devastation that looked like took place on those roads.
Wow.
Yeah, and that next day the roads were as clear as could be, not a slick spot on them.
Well, I think, and if you are not familiar with Midwest weather, or even in the East, when the northeasterns pull in, you can go from icy conditions very quickly.
Yeah.
And then you have black ice, and you have all these other conditions. So you guys was smart enough to get off the road, for one thing. But we're able to find a safe place to do so.
Right. Yeah, because that was the only flat exit.
Well, let me tell you my situation. This one, of course, is when I was living in the Midwest, obviously, because that's where I'm from originally. And I was driving home, a 2-lane road, 2-lane country road. And I was just going along, and a car that was on one of the side roads all of a sudden just pulled out and hit the passenger side of my vehicle, pushed me into oncoming traffic. And there was vehicles heading straight for me. And, the force of that vehicle hitting me just pushed me over there. And I have to move now a vehicle to get back out of way, or yeah, it was just one of those moments that's like, oh my gosh. And then the next thing I know, I'm on the shoulder of the road.
Oh, wow.
So I was no longer in the line of, I mean, it just happened so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I'm on my side of the road, on that, on the off the road safely, and that vehicle that hit me is beside me, and I evidently snapped his bumper right off
Oh,
when my
wow.
vehicle pushed back over to my side of the road, and then, like I said, off the side of the road. And it was the emotion that you go through, and it's so surreal. It's hard to digest what just happened.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because you're like, first of all, you're freaking out because of, I mean, you saw the vehicles coming right at you.
Mm.
And then the vehicle that I was going to hit head on, he pulled over immediately, and the poor man was nearly in tears because he and his daughter were going somewhere, and the three of us could have been killed
Right.
just like that.
Just like that.
And there were vehicles behind him, so you would have had the impact of other vehicles hitting too.
Mm-hmm.
The poor man was nearly in tears, and he's like, I got to get my daughter to where we're going. Here's my information. Give it to the police.
Mm.
They can, I will come sign whatever they need me to sign. But, that kid, you know, caused the accident, and we don't know how you got out of the way, but he was just so grateful. And I was pretty grateful too.
Yeah.
But, it was, but it was definitely, because, like, the situation with the woman that got knocked off the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
You're not thinking when this is going on, but I felt my steering wheel take a hard right yank, which got me
Mm.
back to where I needed to be. Now, you have to be pretty strong, I think, to be able to counter another vehicle that's pushing you in traffic to
Yeah.
get both off to the side of the road. So
Right.
that had to, I mean, there's no way I could,
Yeah.
5'4" woman could not do that. Sorry. But, so, I mean, to me, that was definitely a miracle.
Oh, definitely. My goodness. Think of how many people that saved.
Yeah, it was good. We definitely, the man and the woman in the other vehicle, myself, and then there had to be at least 3 or 4 cars behind,
Mm-hmm. Right.
and it all happened so quickly that you really couldn't react. It was just gonna be bam, bam, bam,
Right.
and there's no
Exactly.
way I would have survived that. No way I would have,
Mm-hmm.
neither way, no way the three of us would have survived.
Right. Oh, that's amazing. Truly amazing. One quick question.
Yes.
Did it go in slow motion in your mind's eye when it happened?
No.
No? Okay.
I no. I didn't know how I got to the shoulder of the road.
Okay.
I didn't know how.
Wow.
I remember seeing the car coming. I remember my hands were on the steering wheel, and I remember the steering wheel doing a hard jerk to the right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the next thing I knew, I was on the side of the road.
Wow.
So it happened very quickly. But I don't remember anything other than the car was no longer running, and I was on the side of the road.
Yeah. Right. Mm.
And he kind of hit where the hinge of how the door hinges.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So where he hit me, and it was like the corner of his vehicle hit there. So what happened when I was able to get up out of the car, and I was all this emotion. I was angry. I was frightened. I was scared.
Mm-hmm.
Because all this just happened, and young kid, he had to be probably a senior in high school or just out of high school. And you wanted to just like lit into him, like, do you know what you could have done? And I opened my mouth, and I was so angry, and I just went, "Are you okay?" Because it was emotionally overwhelming, And he didn't know what to do. I mean, someone so young to be in that kind of accident. And his car was totaled. And the police officers, when they came, they do the paperwork. And the guy looks at my car and he pulls out the wheel well kind of was messed up and I couldn't drive because it was hitting the tire. And he yanked it out, and I was able to drive my vehicle home.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was kind of like, oh, okay. Well, and the tow truck had to come get his vehicle. But yeah, so you can't tell me there was not a miracle that day.
Yeah.
For me not to remember how I got to the side of the road, and it happened so quickly.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
That day before that all happened, do you think there were signs that you saw it coming? That something was going to happen that day? Because I know you've had that happen before where you've
yeah, I've had premonitions and stuff.
premonitions. Yeah.
Right. What I do remember is I kept looking at the car as I was approaching, and I was drawn to the car. I kept looking at that car.
Mm-hmm.
Which, was really, you're going, I mean, it was a 2-lane country road, which is kind of like a little rural route highway,
Mm-hmm.
so people are doing 55, so people are usually mindful of pulling out. They, make sure, that it's clear. But I was just, as I approached, I kept watching him, which was a sign that something was going to happen. Because, usually when you focus in on somebody for no reason at all,
Right.
then that means something psychically is going on. I have noticed since then, though, that when I'm drawn to a situation like that, I'll be like, no. And I point to him like, no, you stay put. No, you stay put. I have done that, since then, or I'll just move my finger like, no. Mm-mm, mm-mm. And so I don't know if that just makes me feel better or if there's actually a communication going on there. But
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
if I had a premonition, I didn't recognize it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You have to keep in mind, I was in my 20s,
Right. This was a long time ago. Yeah.
when this occurred. Yes. And so I wasn't as in tuned. But I remember I kept looking at the vehicle coming down the highway, and I kept looking like, and then boom,
Wow.
there it went.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
I'm glad you had that miracle because that would have been really tough for me for to have
well,
had
thank you.
that happen.
Would have been tough for me
Yeah.
too. A little tough for me for a moment. Um, but yeah, and this one is, you used to talk about premonitions, and this one wasn't a miracle. This is where I should have listened, but I was driving home one night again in the country, and I was told to slow down. And I'm like, I'm almost home. There's no need for me to slow down. And the voice said, you better slow down. And I didn't. And then flashing lights behind me. I'm like, okay, I should have slowed down. Got it. But yeah, that wasn't a miracle, but that was a situation where maybe if I'd listened,
Yeah. Yeah. I get it.
I would have saved me some
Yeah,
money.
true. But when do we actually really listen when we're being told? I mean, we should, but you know,
Yeah, yeah, that is true.
yeah. Okay, so mine that I'm going to tell is there were signs from the beginning of this trip that should have expected something that I should have read into it, that be prepared, there's something that is going to happen. I'll just describe the signs as they came along in the trip, if you don't mind, and then we'll get to the rest
Nope.
of the story. But Mom was, well, she was in her last stages, more pretty much, and of the cancer. It was before she was diagnosed with the cancer, and
But we do.
we knew, and she wanted to see Katrina. So Katrina arranged her schedule. They gave her scheduling to where she ended up having like 5 days off in a row, and we were going to rent a vehicle so that we could go to North Carolina so Mom could visit with Katrina and Katrina could see Grandma, before
One last time.
one last time. And it was,
One last time.
yeah. So we went to a car rental place to rent the car. I had tried to rent it online, and we wanted to do a test drive for a Nissan Rogue. So we thought, what a perfect opportunity to rent a vehicle, the Rogue, and take it on this long trip. And then she would know whether or not she really wanted to get that vehicle, because she was thinking about getting another car. So when we got to the place to pick up the rental, I decided that I was going, for some reason, to select that I didn't want their vehicle insurance, that I was just going to use mine. The agents questioned me about it and said, "Are you sure you don't want to get our insurance?" I said, "No, no, no. We'll use our own insurance company if there's ever going to be an accident, but there's not going to be an accident." And they're like, "Okay, if you're sure." And we're like, "Yep, we're sure." So then the agent asked if I wanted to add Katrina as an additional driver. And I looked at Katrina and she looked at me, and we both said yes at the same time. So they went ahead and added her as an additional driver. And since we did this, we were guaranteed that our insurance company would cover the accident for us, because we found out from someone that worked in the insurance industry that if you don't tell them or you don't add any other drivers on that vehicle, then the insurance company could refuse to pay for the accident because they can't prove who was in the driver's seat. So for some reason, we both knew we had to say yes. She had to be an additional driver. Thought that was interesting. So once we requested the Rogue, it was unavailable, and we were given an Escape instead. Now this becomes important later.
Okay.
So as we were driving along on our trip, there were so many detours. We had problems with detours. For some reason, the GPS would say, "Oh, turn here," or "This is where you actually need to go." And I'm like, "This doesn't look right." Katrina's like, "It doesn't look right." And we ended up arriving late at Mom and Dad's, and come to find out that there had been an accident, a pretty good accident, on the main road that would lead to how to get to their house. And it was, for some reason, we were being diverted. Everything was being diverted.
Not for some reason.
For some reason, yeah, right.
Not for some reason. Such an obvious reason.
There was an accident, so we were being diverted. These are just little signs that were taking place because we heard it was an accident. And then that was, I think, Thursday. So on Friday, I was messaging my husband and told him to be careful driving because most accidents happen close to home. Another foreshadowing. So during the visit, I was having a discussion with Mom about whenever I was pregnant with Katrina, that my rib cage always hurt whenever I was pregnant. And she was discussing how that always happened to her too. And then during this discussion, I kept touching my lower rib cage on the right side as if I had an ache while we were talking. And Mom's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I don't know. I just got an ache. I guess it's all this talk about ribs hurting, that my ribs are deciding to hurt." It was time for us to leave. And before leaving the gas station in town for the return trip home, I felt that I needed to take this different route than what we usually take. And Dad had said, "Oh, no, you just take this, go this way. It'll be a much smoother drive for you guys. So do that." I was like, at the gas station, I thought, you know what? Why not, Katrina? Let's be adventurous. Let's take that different way. She said, "Okay." So that whole trip, heading back, we experienced more delays, extremely heavy traffic in Knoxville, and I chose to reroute. Something in my head said to go ahead and reroute us instead of using the GPS app. It had us staying in this backup. But everything was being done for a reason here. The delays, it was going to be putting us where we needed to be. We saw so many cars pulled over to the right side of the road due to popped tires, accidents, breakdowns, just a whole string of vehicles pulled off to the side of the road. And the top of my right foot, because Katrina and I were alternating driving, and the top of my right foot went to sleep. So I loosened the shoestrings so that, I thought maybe I had it tied too tight, so it was causing the foot to fall asleep. So I loosened the shoestrings. It was still that way when I got home. Katrina hit a good sized pothole, which I called a crater at the time, with the passenger front tire. See, things are happening here. Once we got probably 40 miles from home, we get to the top of this overpass and we saw a car moving up the exit ramp, heading for the highway we were on. They were to stop at the stop sign before turning onto the highway, and we didn't have a stop. It was straight through for us, and we both knew they weren't going to stop and they were going to hit us. We just knew it. As soon as we topped that overpass, we even said they aren't going to stop. So I slam on the brakes and attempted to avoid their vehicle as they ran the stop sign. And my memory is that they didn't even slow down much before actually entering the highway. Their car impacted the car we were in on the passenger side front panel at the tire. Our car was thrown into oncoming traffic lane. This highway's regularly has tractor trailers driving on it as a shortcut between two major interstates. So they get off the one interstate, they take this highway we're on and to jump onto the next interstate that they need to get on. And at this moment, there were no vehicles in that lane. After we got out of the vehicle, some witnesses of the crash wanted to know how the third person was in our car. They saw someone in our backs. Hold on a second.
You okay?
Yeah. They saw someone in our back seat. And the responding police officer wanted to know who the third person was in order to get their statement. The police report even references the third person in the car. He came to the hospital. He came to the hospital ER to ask me about this third person. I told him that it was just my daughter and I in the car. And we don't know who this third person...
Or was it?
Yeah. So, I ended up being okay. They thought for sure at the end of the accident, I wanted them to make certain Katrina was okay. And we got her out and people were stopping and helping us and everything. And I wanted to make certain she was okay. So when EMS got there and the firefighters, I said, check her first. I had her sitting down on a cooler and she ended up being okay. And that's whenever I guess I came down off the adrenaline rush or whatever, but my vitals all dropped and they thought that I might have had internal bleeding. So they rushed me to the hospital, but I was okay after that. It was just the adrenaline rush of the accident. But I can remember in slow motion that whole thing. And then in the ER is whenever I got to thinking, oh my gosh, there were signs all along. Something was going to happen to the right tire of that Escape, and we escaped major injuries. These were two teenage girls in this car that one was just like 16 years old. I think the driver was 16 or 17 years old. Didn't even stop and ran through and hit our car. And I think that was their lesson, that they had some lessons to learn. And I think they had learned it at that point in time. Mom and the husband walked past us and said, we are so sorry this happened to you guys. And we're like, well, hopefully they're okay. The girls are okay. It was...
But think about it. It was also a lesson for you. Because you learned so much after that.
Yeah.
It wasn't, as a way of life lessons, everybody usually thinks a life lesson is negative, but think about it. You were able to connect so many dots.
Yes.
And then to have people, a law enforcement officer going, we need the name of the third person, ma'am. We saw the third person in the car. We need their name. And it's like, there was no third person in the car.
Right. Exactly.
And
yeah,
I remember, because we were, because we got the phone call from Bo right away.
Mm-hmm.
That there'd been an accident. I don't know what's going on, but and we kind of relate it to mom and dad, and then mom loved that third story, the third person thing.
Oh,
I think that was a bit of hope that she needed,
yeah.
or no, maybe not hope. I think more reassurance in what she believed in.
The confirmation of her beliefs. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That there, I mean, because if you asked her, and she told everybody that would listen, that there was an angel in that car,
Yeah.
and that angel kept you safe,
Yep.
kept Katrina safe and you safe. Because it's like, no, I mean, and the insurance, I mean, you were getting all these phone calls from insurance companies.
Hmm.
We need the name of the third person.
Right.
Like, okay, well, maybe Gabriel, we don't know.
Yeah.
So
Right. But see, that's the thing. There, with the insurance, us refusing or us adding her as an additional driver on that rental car, that saved us from having to pay for this accident because there were only really two people. That's why we kept saying there was no third person in there because there wasn't. Even though people saw a third person, there was no proof. And they had to cover because one of us was a licensed driver. It didn't matter. You know what I'm saying? One of us was an insured person. So,
yeah, well, both of you were insured and
right, we both were
licensed.
insured. So it was like, it doesn't
I was
matter
like,
which one was driving.
doesn't matter.
You know?
But see, that third person affected how many people?
Right.
It helped mom.
Mm-hmm.
Mom talked about that. I mean, every time I would come and spend time with her, which was quite a bit,
Yeah.
she'd bring it up. I know when you called, she'd bring it up.
Right.
And I know it was very emotional. You didn't. This was hard for Kim to come on the podcast and share such a personal story,
Mm-hmm.
because I remember your husband going, "Oh my gosh, I almost lost the two most important things in the world."
Yeah. Yeah.
And he called, and that's all he kept saying. I'm like, "Well, you're gonna have to give me a little more information of what's going on, because you're scaring me."
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
like, but he was just, as a first responder himself, going through all the what ifs, what could have,
Mm-hmm.
and the emotional upheaval that you go through. But mom loved that. She just loved that third person. She knew, she was like, I know who that third person was. She was just, it gave her so much strength.
Yeah.
And it had to give you and Katrina some sort of, well, who was this third person? Because I mean, if more than one person is saying it, then that being made themselves very well known, and it wasn't your time.
Right. Right. Yeah. I firmly believe they wrapped their arms around us and kept us from the inevitable. It wasn't our time.
Right.
It's just
Yep.
time to protect us.
And I think when people, you see the things on Facebook all the time about, hey, if you're forgetting your keys, don't worry about it. Someone's just trying to tell you, don't go yet. But that's so true.
It is.
Like this morning, I couldn't find my cell phone. I just had it. I'm like, well, obviously, I need to slow down and go look for the phone, and I'm not supposed to leave right now because situations like that. It's like, well, I don't know what I'm averting, but okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, here. And then there it was. It was like, well, okay, I'm ready to go now. And wait a minute, where's this? Okay, I'm not supposed to leave yet. Where most people are getting aggravated and get so upset. And then if something happens, you miss the signs.
Right. Right.
And sometimes those signs, while you're living it, you don't see them.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been on trips before where it's like, oh my gosh, this rain is making us go so slow, we're never going to get home. But what happened? What if that rain wasn't there? What was going to happen?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Why is it slowing me down?
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
I mean, I've had situations where, like, where your spidey senses kick in and something tells you to leave now.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, well, peace out, I'm out.
Yeah.
I've recognized this feeling. I gotta go. But in situations where you're driving down the road, or situations where, the poor woman lost her life, but her baby was still
Mm-hmm.
alive
Right.
above this frigid water, and they hear a woman's voice crying for help. Help me, help me. You can't tell me that wasn't the mother.
Right. Oh, it couldn't have been.
She was deceased, but was it really her or was it an angel? Was it her spirit saying, help me, help me?
Right.
So these miracles happen for a reason.
Yeah, I agree.
And sometimes we don't recognize what's going on leading up to it because we're not supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a test of faith, or there's a test of it's not your time and you survive. Like my situation where I don't know how, I don't remember how I got to the side of the road, but I did.
Right.
And once I got home and calmed down, then it was like, oh my gosh, I almost died.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And then I mean, and then you're just thankful.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
and yeah, but then you know what? Don't you look at things a little differently for a while after that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sure do. You can invite miracles into your life. A lot of times they aren't merely random acts. They can be, you can invite them actually to happen in your life. And here's how you can actively welcome miracles. Embrace openness. Cultivate an openness to the possibilities of miracles. If you're of the mindset that miracles never happen to me, well, they might not. So you have to create a welcoming mindset for extraordinary events to happen in your life and then recognize that that's what's happening. Staying positive and having positive energy, those are magnets for positive things to happen in your life or positive outcomes. Of course, we always want to practice mindfulness. Being present and aware makes you more attuned to the miracles that are around you. Cultivate gratitude. A heart full of gratitude creates fertile ground for miracles. These are all very positive things that you want to put into your life. And hold on to hope. In challenging times, hope is the fuel that powers all miracles. From someone that is ill in the hospital, you want to have hope that they're going to be okay. And then you send gratitude when it does. What do you think, Carrie?
You know, that's when you want to invite miracles in. And of course, we were speaking of when miracles happen when you're not inviting them in. And I think it's so important to be attuned to how to invite a miracle in. And
Mm-hmm.
I think the other miracles will be so much more noticeable when they
Right.
do happen. Don't you think so?
I do. I think so.
When we were, I was reviewing material and stuff and going over this, it's like I was told cancer hospice with mom. And I was looking through this going, I never once asked for a miracle for mom because I knew she was supposed to go. And I felt kind of bad
Yeah.
that I didn't try.
Mm-hmm.
But what was supposed to happen was supposed to happen because she'd been sick for so long. But it was like my miracle of mom's passing was mom had such a wonderful sense of humor. Anybody knew her, she could light up a room, and she was so funny.
Yeah.
And our eldest sister had some very bad, like most psychic people, had bad religious experiences
Mm-hmm.
and has had a big aversion to anything of established religion,
Mm-hmm.
which is not uncommon for psychics.
Right.
I myself have had issues with. You do you, as we talked about before,
Yeah.
and I'll do me, and we'll just call it a day. I don't believe in titles, other than I know I'm a psychic, that's my title, but I don't believe in titles of different religions. You believe in what you believe in, and
Mm-hmm.
that's it.
That's right.
But mom, it was getting close to the time of transition, and she asked my sister, she's like, do you believe in Jesus? And Julie thinks mom's doubting her beliefs. And this woman was set in stone on her beliefs. But so Julie's feeling that mom's doubting her beliefs, getting close to the time of transition. So Julie's like, yes, yes, I do. And mom's like, I thought you might. Just kind of like in a gotcha moment, where here we are knowing what's going to happen and what was supposed to happen.
Right.
Would I have loved to have had a miracle come through? Absolutely. But sometimes the path is the path.
Right.
And even though you try to invite this miracle, but there might be another miracle that pops up.
Mm-hmm.
And that could open doors for different beliefs and different mindsets. And I just thought that that was very telling on Mom's part
Yeah,
because she got her way.
she did.
She, it was funny. Our sister's going to listen to this later going, "That's not funny. You shouldn't have shared that." I joked with her. I said, "Mom got you. She tricked you." She said, "She tricked you into saying you believe in Jesus." She goes, "No, I was just trying to make her at ease." I said, "Yes, and she knew you'd do that." She's like, so she kind of tricked you, which was kind of a nice, funny aspect for what we were going through. We needed a laugh.
Yeah,
It gave Mom comfort.
it did.
And, I was talking with Julie later, and after Mom passed and they were out of the country for a few months and came back, I just Mom had 4 angels. And she's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Mom had 4 angels." She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Mom had 4 angels." I thought it was pretty self-explanatory. She had 4 angels. And she's like, "Okay, wait, what do you mean?" I went, "One on each corner of the bed." She had 4 angels with her
Yeah.
all the time. And she's like, "Well, I didn't see them." I said, "Well, I don't know what to tell you, but she had 4 angels." I said, and she's like, "What did you tell Dad?" I went, "Well, no, I didn't tell Dad." And she goes, "Well, why not?" I said, "He may not have believed me that there were 4 angels on each side of the bed. You're doubting me now, and you're a psychic." I was like, "I'm not doubting you." I went, "Yeah, you are. You asked me. Yeah, he asked me a lot of questions about these 4 angels." But it was one of those where these angels came for her for comfort.
Yeah, exactly.
One on each side of the bed, four spots. They were positioned for when she transitioned to lead her where she needed to go.
And they were protecting her.
Yeah, and to me, that was a miracle
Yes, exactly.
because they let me see them, but not the other psychic in the room. But again, it's kind of where when a miracle happens, we always want it to be a happy, joyous, yay.
Mm-hmm.
Kim and I were talking about this. Lazarus was raised after 4 days in the grave. Well, there was no embalming back then, and in Jewish tradition, there's still no embalming today. They do not embalm their deceased. So it makes sense that if someone could raise from the dead, it would be a Jewish person because they have not been embalmed.
Yeah.
And embalming didn't start until after the Civil War or towards the end of the Civil War.
Right.
Embalming that we know it.
As we know it, yeah.
But here, I think that the miracle for Mom was she had these angels with her. The ones that she believed in were there with her when the time came.
Right. Right.
So, in essence, to me, it was a miracle for me to be able to see the 4 angels.
Mm-hmm.
And they were there all the time.
Right.
All the time. I was here nonstop the last 3 days. And every time I went in there, they were.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. I'm like, I'm not talking to them. They have a job. I'm not going to interfere. But it's like, okay, does everybody see the angels or is it just me? They were there for her. And that was her miracle to lead her on. So sometimes our miracles are not how we think they should be,
Mm-hmm.
but it's what they are. That was a miracle. For one, it was a miracle that I was able to see them.
Right.
Because obviously not all the psychics in the room could see them.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a miracle that they were there to ensure she transitioned to where she needed to go.
Right. Yeah.
And that gave me much peace.
Right.
Because it's not easy seeing a loved one pass away. It's not.
Right. It's not. Mm-mm.
And I wouldn't have traded it for anything.
Yeah.
That was my job to do.
Yeah.
And it was nice to see that those angels were there.
Yeah.
And I think they showed themselves to comfort me during this time.
Right. Right.
So, as I took us on this very sad, very sad travel.
Well, it just shows that miracles can be a very transformative event. It's something that is life-changing, especially when you
Yes.
identify that's what it is, and it can strengthen your faith and change your perspectives on life and things that are happening.
Just look at your unfortunate car accident. That affected Mom in such a way
Mm-hmm.
because you had an angel with you.
Yeah.
She told anybody that would listen. She talked about that for quite a while. Well, for one, she didn't want to focus on the fact that her daughter and granddaughter might have been killed in
Right.
this accident. But in her mind, it wasn't going to happen because you had your protective angel with you
Yeah.
and keeping you both safe.
Yeah, she and I discussed that whenever Bo and I came for our final visit there. She said, "What do you think that was?" And I said, "Well, I believe it was my guardian angel, or Katrina's guardian angel, or one for the both of us to save us, to protect us, so that we would come out of that accident without major injuries and such."
Yeah.
And that's what she believed.
No one was really hurt in this accident.
Correct. Yeah.
One of the takeaways is to make sure you get your insurance information correct when owning a vehicle.
Yeah.
But it's just where you have to be open and really look for these miracles. And like we talked about, you can be open to them. You can ask for them. You can ask for healing. I mean, it could even be this emotional healing. Be
Yes.
open to it, be accepting of it.
Right.
And that healing isn't going to come necessarily the way you think it's going to come.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who would have thought a car accident would have instilled such faith in someone who was dying?
Right.
But I think that was part of the deal
Yes.
right there.
Yeah.
I think that was part of what was supposed to happen. And it was very obvious that there was a third entity in the vehicle.
Right.
So it's quite obvious.
Yeah. A miracle, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Anything else you want to cover about miracles? Because I think we've gone through some great stuff.
Oh, I agree. I agree. No, I don't have anything else. This was a helpful episode for me.
And
That
it was a
accident.
hard episode for you. It
Yeah.
was a hard episode for you.
Well, I mean, that accident itself was a very difficult time for me. I mean, it was slow motion and everything. It's just been something that I haven't even gone to that intersection again since it happened. But
Well, I wonder if all of your panic attacks leading up to this accident about an accident were leading you towards this accident.
I think some of it, yes. I still have that every once in a while.
Well, now you might have PTSD.
Right. Yeah.
so
But
and understandably so. It was a very traumatic car accident.
yeah. But it's not as, because I had been working on trying to control that anyway, to move through that reaction that I would normally have with the accident, foreshadowing of accidents. But yeah, it could have been. It could have been. Because my reactions aren't as severe as what they were before.
Yeah, so if it's not as severe, then I think that you were being prepared or you had a premonition that you weren't recognizing as a premonition.
It could
Because
be.
there would be times you would freak out for no reason.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, in your mind, your reaction was valid and there was something bad, something bad, something bad, and then something bad did happen.
Right. Right.
So I think that perhaps you were having premonitions and didn't know it.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
Because, I mean, who wants to acknowledge that premonition?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, here's your premonition. You and your only daughter are going to be in this totally bad car accident, but you'll be okay.
Yeah. You're not getting in the car with me.
Yeah, who's going to be like, okay, buckle up, sweetheart, we're,
Today's the
today
day.
might be the day.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
just like you just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at the signs and I think it's very important to be open to a miracle and acknowledge when it happens. And like you said, the miracle could be a little bunny just hopping up to you or making eye contact.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I'd recommend looking up your spirit animal at that point, but that's just
Well,
because I do that all the time.
that
I'm
too.
awful about that.
And that's another podcast, another episode.
That is another podcast because we're going to do that.
Yeah.
Spirit animals.
Sometime.
Yes. Spirit hasn't said when yet, but I'm sure he will.
Yeah.
They will let us know. Anything else you'd like to share, Kim, before we sign off?
No, I think that covers it from my end.
Okay. We've decided not to announce what next episodes are because Spirit has something else in mind.
Yeah.
And we end up going a totally different route. So you'll just have to stay tuned and find out when it drops. Because we're just as excited to find out as you are what the next episode is going to be.
Yeah,
We know what we think it's going to be, but we'll see.
we'll see. And don't forget, our episodes drop every Monday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Spotify and other podcast catchers.
And sometimes iHeartRadio is an hour behind for some reason. It's been glitching lately.
Yeah, I have no clue on that. It just, Carrie will message me and say, I can't hear, it's not on iHeart. And then I'll say, give it an hour. And then all of a sudden, there it is. So,
Yeah. So if that is your choice format is iHeart, it will show up. Keep refreshing.
yes,
But there seems to be some sort of lag. I don't know why we couldn't figure it out, but it will show up. But I will continue to harass my sister till it does, so don't worry. Like she has control over iHeartRadio, but I will continue to harass until it shows up. I like to listen to that one because on my particular phone, I can listen to it and then answer different messages coming in, and I
right.
don't lose it, whereas the other formats, I lose it. We also have YouTube. There's no video, so yeah, you won't be seeing us talking. But we are on YouTube as well.
YouTube Music, Apple Podcast,
Yes,
Amazon Music,
yes, yes.
everywhere, just about.
And and we would love any stories you would like to share about miracles that have happened in your life. We would love to hear about those and anything you might want us to talk about on the podcast, obviously keeping your privacy where you would like it to be. Or if you just don't want it shared but just want to talk about it, reach out to us. We're always looking for great feedback. We always want to know what our listeners think. And if you have any ideas of an upcoming episode, please let us know. That's how we've come across one other episode already, was a listener going, hey, what about this?
Right.
Please reach out, talk to us, contact us. We love listening and getting your input and stories. We don't always convey it on air, but it's always enjoyable to interact with our followers.
Exactly.
So again, we are on Psychic Bent podcast on Facebook, on Instagram under the same name. And if you wish to email us, Kim's in charge of that. So email us at
psychicbent1@gmail.com. And that's the number 1.
and Kim will be responding.
Yes.
Not Carrie, but Kim will be responding. But so thank you guys so much for listening. I hope these stories really resonated with you and I hope you enjoyed them. The personal stories were hard to talk about,
Mhm.
because some of them had such personal fear and triggers and
Right.
what,
Impacts. Yeah.
impacts that you don't want to have to go back and revisit. But they're worthy of being mentioned because they were actual miracles that happened to us. And I'm sure so many people have miracles every day. If you just stop to think, you'll see them.
Right. Exactly.
Anything else, Kim, you want to add before we close?
Nope. I think that wraps up this episode.
Thank you guys so much for listening to Miracles, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye. May your light shine bright. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast, Psychic Bent. If you enjoyed Psychic Bent, please like, follow, rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to Psychic Bent. We can be reached on Facebook at Psychic Bent Podcast. Our email address is psychicbent1@gmail.com. May your light shine bright.